Today we'll be wrapping up the regular season here in year number 5 of the San Francisco Giants franchise here on MLB The Show 24. As today we look to clinch our playoff berth, win our 3rd consecutive division title, and potentially get the number 1 seed in the National League. I've always felt like the 2 seed has an easier pathway than the 1 seed, especially because throughout the last few years, the 4 and 5 seeds, the Dodgers and the Padres, have been better than whoever the 3 and the 6 have been, and it looks like it'll be San Diego and LA as the 4 and 5 yet again. I would still rather get the number 1 seed this year because, well, if we get the 2 seed, that will mean that we've really struggled over the final month of the year. And other than this 8-game win streak we had in August, I feel like we really haven't played all that well since the All-Star break, which is not a great sign, and hopefully we didn't peak too early in the season. It was an exciting trade deadline in the last episode with a lot of movement across all of Major League Baseball. Many of the top contenders ended up making some big moves in the National League. The Dodgers had Jackson Holliday, the Braves had Emmanuel Clase, and then in the American League, I think the moves that'll move the needle here include Ketel Marte to the Rangers. They're currently the number 1 seed. And then Francisco Alvarez to Detroit. He's had a terrific season behind the plate for the Mets. And now the Tigers look like they could potentially be a big threat with Alvarez and Riley Green, who are 2 of the league's leaders in WAR. We made a couple of moves as well. We knew that with this core, this is going to be the best chance to win a title, and we need to go all in, push our chips to the middle of the table, and get set for a big playoff run. So we ended up making 2 trades, acquiring Felix Bautista from the Orioles and Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Guardians. Both of these guys are on expiring contracts, making their prices a little bit smaller, but both of them I think are going to give us a big impact. J-Ram has been one of the best players of the last decade. He's on the last year of his deal with Cleveland. They're looking to get younger. They have not had a good season, but Jose Ramirez is still really good. As a WAR at 4.5, he really hasn't lost a step, and him in this lineup gives us another really strong veteran bat. And then Felix Bautista, he's been one of the best relievers in baseball for quite some time. Gives us some more juice at the back end of the bullpen, and we might need to use him as the closer with Camilo Doval's inconsistency throughout the season. Those moves, however, have been kind of offset in a way by injuries. We've gotten hit hard by the bug over the last couple of weeks. And Yel de Los Santos, torn groin. We will not see him for the rest of the year, and I don't think we're going to have him at all for the playoffs, which sucks because he's a key reliever for us. And then multiple position players, Leody Taveras, fractured forearm. He might be back in time for the playoffs. We'll see. And then the same can be said with Brendan Donovan. He broke his ankle. Both of these guys are going to be good to go probably around the start of October. Donovan, I feel a little bit better about coming back in time before we get started in the postseason since he got hurt more recently. But nonetheless, that's 3 key players who are currently out for the remainder of the regular season, essentially, and possibly into postseason play. As we look at our schedule in September, we don't have to see the Dodgers again after finishing 12-1 against them this year, but we do start things off against the Cubs, and as we simulate through this series, we get another injury. It's a broken shin for J.P. Crawford, and he'll be out for a month or 2, likely into the postseason, so it's just another shot that this team takes. Crawford was our best player last year in the playoffs. This would be a huge loss. Sure, he's gotten worse in some ways this year, but he still has been a very positive player. His defense has been the best of his career. His walk rate is at a career high. His strikeout rate is at a career low. So even if the pure offense and the power has gotten worse, he has found ways to get better despite his age regression. We're going to go in free agency and sign a familiar face, Cedric Mullins, who we traded for in Season 2 and then traded away in Season 3 to the Astros, getting back Zach DeZenzo, who was used to help us get Jose Ramirez. Mullins hasn't played at all this year. I don't know why he's not taking this deal. Be grateful. But he hasn't played at all this year, but he's been really good every season he's played over the last 6 or 7 years. And I think having another veteran in the building is not a bad idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to have him in AAA, get his feet wet over this next month or so, and see if we think he's good enough to make the postseason roster. So what we're going to do is we're going to call up Edwin Arroyo here for the big league roster, not Liover Peguero. Arroyo's had a strong season in AAA. I would have called him up for September call-ups anyway, so now we're going to get him up around a week earlier, and I think he's going to play quite a bit over this next month or so. He's a guy who I think could be a long-term starter for us. Missed most of last year with an injury, but he has gotten steadily better when he's been healthy ever since Season 1, when we acquired him at the deadline from the Reds in the Matt Chapman, Jonathan India swap. We ended up winning the first 2 games of this series against the Cubs, so I guess it wasn't all doom and gloom, even with J.P. Crawford getting injured. And that'll bring us into the third of 4 here at Wrigley Field. The Cubs, of course, have been consistently the number 3 seed in the postseason. In Season 3, we played against them in the NLDS, sweeping them. Last year, the Cubs lost to the 6th seed Cincinnati. And again, the Cubs are not as good as the Dodgers or the Padres, so it would go to the number 2 seed's advantage to have to play against either the Cubs or the 6th seed. But again, I would rather get the 1 seed just because that would imply that we're continuing to play well going into October, even if that means playing against a better team in the NLDS. Edwin Arroyo making his big league debut, our 7th-ranked prospect in the system, 82nd overall in Major League Baseball. He'll play short and bat in the 8-hole, as it'll be the lefty Shota Imanaga on the mound for the Cubs. He's having a nice year, 3.45 ERA, whip it around 1.3. So let's get this show on the road here at rainy Wrigley Field. Jun-Hoo Lee is up 2-2, and that was a pretty nice pitch. Sweeping curve. It trails to the outside part of the plate. Not much Jun-Hoo Lee can do there except tip his cap. Stone Garrett obliterates this baseball into left field. That one is long gone, and the Giants strike first. They lead 1-0. That was not the pitch. Imanaga lobbed a 73-mile-an-hour off-speed pitch right down the heart of the strike zone. I think it's obvious that he mislocated that one, but Stone Garrett capitalizes. Home run number 19 on the year for Garrett, and so San Francisco strikes early. That'll bring up Munetaka Murakami, still in second for the NL MVP voting, despite not making the All-Star team. As he puts it on the ground, play is made, and that'll wrap up the inning. So a good start. Stone Garrett puts us on the board with the homer as we go to the bottom of the first, taking a look at Sandy Alcantara, who is currently in second for the Cy Young voting, only behind Shane Bieber, who also leads in the MVP race. It's also worth noting that in third place for the Cy Young is actually Fernando Molina, so that's pretty cool. As Pete Crow Armstrong goes down on the 12-6 curve. Nice pitch by Alcantara. Brandon Marsh now signed a big deal here in the offseason. He's been great over the last few seasons with the Phillies. Pops it up. Murakami makes the play. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Sandy Alcantara, as that will bring us into the second. Giants leading early 1-0. We'll see if we can add to the lead here, as that'll bring up Patrick Bailey. Runner aboard, full count, and Bailey draws a walk. So a base runner here for San Francisco. Now they've got 2 on, and it's Edwin Arroyo making his first career at bat. He fouls that pitch off for strike 2. Arroyo's not known for his offense, but he can hit the ball quite a bit. I'm most excited about his defense, though, with Brendan Donovan and J.P. Crawford injured as he strikes out. But with those 2 guys out, Jose Ramirez is going to be our regular shortstop, which isn't ideal. So we might need Arroyo to play quite a bit. As Johnny Hackman swings and misses at the slider, Imanaga gets through the second, fired up, although that really looked like a yawn more than anything, but okay. Into the bottom of the second, Jazz Chisholm puts it on the ground. Garrett deflects it. Going to be a close play at first. Jazz is pretty fast, but it's in time. Nice job there by Stone Garrett to make the throw for the first out of the inning. Andrew Vaughn now, 2-2. Up the middle, gets by Arroyo for a single into center field. So the Cubs get themselves a base runner here with 1 away. They're first of the game, and we'll see if they can do any damage with it. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. chases the sinker. A very nice pitch by Sandy Alcantara for the second strikeout of the game. Now that'll bring up Pedro Roca. 1-2. Got him on the 12-6. And Sandy Alcantara is able to get through the frame. 3 punch-outs. Just 1 base runner allowed through the first 2 innings of this game as we move into the third. Jun-Hoo Lee strikes out once again. He goes down on the slider. Nice pitch by Imanaga. He's up to 4 Ks on the day. Stone Garrett homered earlier, looking to do so again. I don't think this one's going to have enough carry, though. It'll make it into center, caught by Brandon Marsh. And so the Cubs are looking solid pitching-wise through 3. Imanaga allowed the early homer, which was maybe the worst pitch I've ever seen in my life. But otherwise, he's done pretty well. James Triantos singles into right. That pitch was about 4 inches away from the strike zone. Sandy located it perfectly. Not much he could have done there, just lucky offense, I guess. Triantos making his season debut as he goes for second, and he is safe with a slow throw by Bailey. So not a bad start to Triantos' first big league game of the campaign with a base hit and a stolen base. The stolen base won't really matter as Miguel Amaya draws a walk anyway. And now the Cubs are in business. 2 on, nobody out, full count for Ha-Seong Kim. puts it on the ground, could be 2. Arroyo, Ramirez, Garrett doubles them up. The Cubs opened the inning with 2 base runners and got nothing out of it as the former Cub, Ian Happ, is up in the 4th with a liner into right, and it is gone! Ian Happ adds to the lead for the Giants as it's 2-0. Home run number 31 on the season for Happ, who continues to be really good for us over these last 2 years. I think the Cubs are regretting letting him go. It's not like he played poorly at the end of his Cubs tenure. That's when he was at his best, and the biggest reason why we signed him. Now Patrick Bailey is up 3-2, 2 away, draws another walk. He has 2 walks up to this point, and the control for Imanaga has been a little bit off so far. A lot of walks today for San Francisco. As Arroyo puts it on the ground, that'll be a force out at second, but the Giants add to their lead. Solo homer by Ian Happ makes it 2-0, and now Chicago looks to respond. Marsh into left, gets by Happ, who's unable to make the play. A leadoff double for Brandon Marsh, and the speedster finds himself in scoring position. Brandon Marsh may not look the fastest. If anything, he looks like a disciple of Cousin It, but he can run. He won't need to here as Jazz Chisholm lofts it into left center. That one is gone, and the Cubs tie it at 2. Couple of former Marlins teammates facing off, Sandy Alcantara and Jazz Chisholm, and Jazz ends up winning the battle here. We know Jazz quite well from our Marlins franchise last year, won a National League MVP, one of the faces of that team. Here with the Cubs, he sends that one into the seats, and now Lourdes Gurriel looks to join him. If it's fair, it's gone, and it curves just foul by 6.9 feet. Nice. 2-2 now for Gurriel after the near home run, and the at-bat instead ends in a strikeout. Didn't know whether or not he should have swung there. The answer is yes, he probably should have. That pitch was in the strike zone. Pedro Roca now 1-2. He goes down to the 12-6 curve. Good end of the inning for Sandy, but the Cubs tie it with a 2-run homer by Jazz Chisholm as we go into the 5th. A pitching change for Chicago. Imanaga is done after 4, and he'll be replaced by Ryan Borucki, the lefty, who's been busy this year. ERA in the mid-5s, hasn't been particularly effective. Johnny Hackman draws a walk, and the Giants open up the inning with a leadoff runner. So Hackman is on. That'll bring us to the top of the order. Tommy Rogers into the gap. That should score Hackman with no problem, as he will look to round third, heads to the plate, and the play at home is not in time. RBI double for Tommy Rogers, and it's 3-2. What a season it's been for Rogers. His 39th double of the year as he continues to really play at an exceptional level. As I mentioned at the beginning of the year, we were hoping for the third-year breakout, and boy, we have gotten it! Rogers will be driven home as Stone Garrett sends this one into left, and it's 5-2. Garrett's second home run of the afternoon, number 20 on the year. And the Giants are feeling good right now. A big inning off of Ryan Borucki. He only records 1 out and will be yanked for the veteran righty Jeff Hoffman, who they probably should have just brought in to begin with. 2.35 ERA on the season for Hoffman. He's got some work to do with the Giants having scored 3 in this frame. 1-2 for Ian Happ with 2 away. Got him looking on the fastball, but a big inning for San Francisco with an RBI double by Rogers and a 2-run homer by Stone Garrett, his second long ball of the game. Only 4 hits for the Giants today, but they're scoring when they've got guys on base. The walks are the biggest reason why we've been able to stack base runners today, as Miguel Amaya singles into center field with 1 away. That one getting by Edwin Arroyo just barely. Ha-Seong Kim now up for the Cubs. Count is full, looking to reach base here, and he will not. Goes down looking on the sinker for the second out of the frame. Alcantara's 6th K of the day, now against the talented center fielder Pete Crow Armstrong. He goes down on the fastball. That one comes inside at 97. A good inning for Sandy. He's probably got 1 or 2 more in him. A 5-2 lead going into the 6th. The Giants looking to hold on, win their 3rd game of this series, and guarantee a series win going into the 4th and final matchup. Jose Ramirez gets plunked. He will reach base. We'll take it. And that'll bring you Patrick Bailey. He's walked twice today. This one is grounded over to first. What a play by Vaughn. Should be 2, and it will. An exceptional play at first base by Andrew Vaughn. That should have gone for a base hit, but instead it's a double play. Edwin Arroyo now with 2 away. This one is hit high and deep into right center. It's got some carry at the track. It goes near the wall. Edwin Arroyo waltzes into second, for a 2-out double. The first career big league hit for the Puerto Rican infielder Edwin Arroyo, who just days ago celebrated a 25th birthday, and now he celebrates career hit number 1 as that one goes off of Hoffman's leg. Throw to first by Jazz is not in time. Hoffman taking one for the team there because if that ball gets by him, Arroyo's scoring. That's an RBI for Johnny Hackman. But since it hits his foot, stays in the infield, Arroyo has to stay at third. Tommy Rogers now got him looking on the slider. Feels like the Cubs might have dodged a bullet there as the Giants leave 2 runners on, and we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Sandy Alcantara, unsurprisingly, will remain in the game against Brandon Marsh. High-hanging pitch, and Marsh lets it rip. That one goes into right center. A small crowd here today with all the rain, but those fans will enjoy that baseball. Marsh's 11th of the year. He's missed time with injury, and that's sort of been the one hiccup with Marsh throughout his career. He's a really good player, but during his time with the Phillies, now this year with the Cubs, he has really struggled to stay healthy. Now Andrew Vaughn with one away, singles into center. They're really starting to hit Sandy well. Has not looked like himself over these last few innings, and we're going to take him out here. We want to be a little bit more conservative with our decision-making over this next month or so. It's just really about being smart, avoiding really bad decisions that cost us games, so that way we can clinch the division and clinch the 1 seed as soon as possible to try to make the last few weeks of the regular season pretty stress-free. So Alcantara will be replaced by Joel Payamps. He's had a solid season out of the bullpen, 3.42 ERA and around 23 2/3 innings of work. The Cubs have a runner on here. Tying run is at the plate. They were down by 3 just moments ago. And now if all goes well, they can turn this game on its head, but that won't help as Lourdes Gurriel goes down on the slider. Pedro Roca now 1-1. This one hits sharply into left, and it will drop in front of Ian Happ for a base hit. 2 on, 2 out, maybe the most important at bat of the game so far. A huge opportunity for James Triantos. He's ahead 2-1, and this one is on the ground to short. Edwin Arroyo, in his big league debut, makes the throw, and Joel Payamps does a good job of getting the Giants out of the inning. Could have gone worse. The Cubs get 1, but they leave 2 stranded. Josh Hader comes out of the bullpen for the Cubs here in the 7th. Hader has never been very good in MLB The Show simulation, but this year he's been absurdly good. ERA at 1.01 as Stone Garrett draws a walk. Hader has only let up 4 runs through the entirety of the season, nearly 35 innings of work. So with Garrett aboard and 1 away, that'll bring up Munetaka Murakami, who historically has owned the Cubs, but not so much today. This one could be 2, and it will not. Good hustle by Murakami, making it to first safely. The right side of the Cubs infield, though, has made some really nice plays in this game. Full count here for Ian Happ. Got him looking on the high fastball. Chicago gets through the 7th. A good inning for Hader. His ERA now below 1. We'll go into the bottom of the 7th as this game will be taking a 45-minute rain delay. It felt inevitable. It feels like there's a hurricane out there. And Genesis Cabrera will come out of the bullpen. He probably would have anyway here if not for the delay. The ERA for him has gone below 2. He's pitched really well since the All-Star break. But Ha-Seong Kim has other ideas. Hits that one into the gap. Looking to leg out a triple. Ha-Seong Kim is safe at third and is now 90 away from home. The 50 fans left in this stadium liking what they see. We'll see if Brandon Marsh can drive him in on the ground to third. 2 away here, keep in mind, as Murakami makes the play. And the Cubs do not add a run. It remains 5-3 as we move into the 8th. The righty, Yency Almonte, comes out of the bullpen for the Cubs. 3.66 ERA this season. He's been pretty solid in 66 innings of work. Almonte will open things up here, facing off against Blake Sable, coming in off the bench as a pinch hitter for Patrick Bailey. 3-2 takes a walk. We have drawn a ton of walks in this game. These Cub pitchers are not getting the strike zone. Arroyo on the ground should be 2, and it will. Edwin Arroyo gets doubled up, and with that likely being his last at-bat of the game, in his debut, he'll finish 1 for 4 with a double and some solid defense. Not too bad. As we bring in Felix Bautista here for the bottom of the 8th, it's time for Bautista and Duvall to shut the door, the new dynamic duo, as Bautista strikes out Andrew Vaughn on the splitter. Now facing off against Lourdes Gurriel Jr. 2-2. This one is hit well into center. Jung-Hoo Lee can only watch it fly. That one is out of here. and the Cubs are going to make it a ball game. It is now 5-4. Remember, Gurriel had the near home run back in the 4th inning off of Sandy Alcantara, so he makes sure to get this one over the fence against Felix Bautista, but the Cubs are not done. Pedro Roca into right field over the head of Johnny Hackman. That one goes for a double, and look at this. The Cubs with the tying run in scoring position. We trust Bautista, but with him allowing 2 hard-hit balls in a row, we're going to take him out, and Camilo Doval is going to come in a little bit early. Doval has had his fair share of inconsistencies this year, but we trust him to get us out of the jam, and it looks like he will. Triantos pops it into right. Hackman makes the play, and it remains 5-4 as we go into the 9th. So the Cubs do get 1 in that inning, but it feels like they could have gotten more. Emilio Pagan will come out of the bullpen now for Chicago, looking to keep the lead at 1 going into the bottom of the 9th. Kyler Rodriguez comes into the game off the bench, hitting .263, playing pretty well since coming back from his, 3 separate injuries, as he draws a walk, another one for San Francisco. Tommy Rogers, 3-2, swinging a miss on the cutter. Thought we were going to get another walk there, not quite. Nice pitch by Pagan on the inside cutter. Stone Garrett now, he's homered twice today, looking for another, and he won't get it. Pops it up. Miguel Anaya is under it, and he will make the play. So we know where we stand. It's a 1-run game going into the bottom of the 9th inning, and let's see if Camilo Doval can shut the door, get the save, and lead us to victory. 9-1-2 hitters due up with 1 away. Ha-Seong Kim draws a walk. There you go. Tying run is on base, and the winning run is at the plate for Chicago. Pete Crow Armstrong is not had a very good day today, 0 for 4. Kim goes for second. The throw from Sabol is a close one, but not in time. Gutsy decision on the bases pays off, as Kim is now probably a single away from scoring and tying the game. As for PCA, he finds himself behind in the count 1-2. This one is going to be hit over the glove of Garrett into right. Kim waved around third. The throw is a little bit offline. It would have been in time if it was more accurate. And this game is tied at 5. The Cubs are able to make the comeback, and now they have a chance to win. Marsh lines it to short. Nice play by Edwin Arroyo for the second out of the inning. And that'll bring us to Jazz Chisholm. Homered earlier. Can walk it off here. And he goes down on the cutter. Doval gets out of the inning alive, but barely alive. The Cubs tie it with Pete Crow Armstrong, and we're moving into the 10th. Pete Fairbanks is out of the bullpen for Chicago with the extra inning runner on second. We'll see if the Giants are able to bring him in quickly with the middle of the order up, 4-5-6. Here's Murakami into the opposite field. That one will drop in front of the wall. Garrett scores no problem. It's an RBI double, making it 6-5. And best of all, we get to keep our extra innings runner at second base, essentially, as Murakami will end up there. That'll bring up Ian Happ now. A multi-run lead puts us in a great spot going into the bottom half of the frame. As Happ will draw a walk, Murakami doesn't advance, but now there are multiple runners. It does set a force out, though, at all 3 bases. Got to watch out for the ground ball. Murakami would advance to third on the next at-bat. 1 away. Sabol pops it up. Man, that was our opportunity. The most clutch player on the roster had a chance to blow the doors open, and he's unable to. We'll still get another chance here with Luis Toribio. He'll come off the bench as a pinch hitter for Arroyo, and it's a grounder over to short. Play is made. So we get 1. We get the extra innings runner to score, but I feel like we could have gotten more. We had 2 runners on and nobody out, and neither of them were driven in. John Schreiber will come into the save. You'd think this is where we're going to bring in Jojo Romero, but we're looking at the bigger picture here. The Cubs have a lot of lefties due up in the 11th inning. I trust Schreiber to allow no more than 1 run here, and I think there's a good chance that they don't get anything. Now, they do advance Jazz Chisholm to third, though, so realistically, if this ball is put well in play, they should be able to bring him in. Gurriel goes down on the slider. Okay, so now the Cubs are going to need a base hit, it looks like. And it'll be Pedro Roca, 2 for 4, down to their final strike. This one gets by Murakami and Watson. Tied at 6. Pedro Roca delivers, and this one is knotted up. James Triantos now for the Cubs. Puts it on the ground. Khalil Watson looks to make the play. Throw to first is in time. And through 10, we're tied at 6. Both teams bring home their extra innings runner, and that'll move us into the 11th. Kyler Rodriguez will start things off. Walked his first time up. Here he goes down looking. Great pitch by Fairbanks, placing that one on the outside part of the strike zone. 3-1 for Rogers. He finds himself ahead in the count, and he will draw a walk. Another base runner here for San Francisco. They've got 2 on, but again, now there's a force out at every base. The runner would advance to third for Garrett. Swing and a miss on the fastball. Stone Garrett is our most timely hitter, but that time he comes up short, and now the Cubs can win it. We will bring in Jojo Romero here for the bottom of the 11th, but the Cubs get the winning run in scoring position with us not being able to score. Kim into left. Happ hoping for a lucky bounce. He doesn't get it. The run rounding third should score with no problem, and the Cubs win it. 7-6 in 11 innings. James Trianto scores off the walk-off hit by Ha-Seong Kim. This would be a really disappointing loss if it was a playoff game because we had this one. We were up 5-2. We put ourselves in a good spot, and the Cubs slowly but surely cracked at our lead before being able to win it in the 11th. We only had 7 hits, but we drew 9 walks. Bailey had 2. 8 different players, as you can see, had at least 1. The play discipline was phenomenal. We got plenty of base runners. Of our 7 hits, though, 6 of them went for extra bases. So the offense really wasn't too bad. The pitching wasn't that bad either. It's just that the Cubs outplayed us after the 5th inning. They had 14 hits and 2 walks, so we each had 16 base runners. But we both did it in very different ways, and unfortunately for us, it is the Cubs who get the job done. We're going to do some simulating. We're going to wrap up the Chicago series. 3 games in Toronto, 3 against the Royals, and then 3 at home against the Diamondbacks. But before that, I have not shown our draft class yet. So here's a look at the ratings and potentials, and as you can see, looks pretty good. 97 in the 4th round with Bruce Gross. 97 in the 5th with Alan Cobb. It appears the scouting department cooked. Can Camilo Doval cook in the bottom of the 9th here in the last game against the Cubs? He blew the save in the previous game, and he won't do it 2 times in a row. Nico Horner flies out to right. It is caught, and the Giants win the series 3-1. Overall, hard to complain with that result, taking 3 of 4 on the road against a playoff team who doesn't really like us, being that we swept them in the first round a couple of years ago. The 11-inning loss hurts, but overall we performed pretty well here. Solid start from Scott Rios. The offense coming up big, scoring 2 runs in the 9th. It was the newcomer, Jose Ramirez, who made the play with a 2-run shot to win it, as that brings us to the start of September, and now this is where we're going to have to bring up players to the Major League roster, and it's kind of challenging because with all the injuries we've accumulated, we're losing out on 40-man depth pretty quick, but we're going to bring back up Liover Peguero and Peter Reed. That'll bring us to this series against Toronto, 4-2, bottom 9. Camilo Doval has already let up 1 run, and the bases are loaded. He is kind of struggling here against the catcher, Ivan Herrera. This one is hit into right center, and the Blue Jays will walk it off with a grand slam. A Doval disaster class. We were up by 3. No excuse to lose this game, and Camilo Doval completely blows it, and this feels like the apex of his inconsistencies throughout this season. It was very clear early in the year that Camilo Doval just did not have his best stuff. That's continued as this year has gone along, and this feels like the low point for him, allowing 5 runs here, 4 of which were earned. The Blue Jays did get 1 off of an error, which we had 3 in this game, so the defense wasn't exactly helpful, but still, this is a game we had 1, and Camilo Doval threw it up. Fernando Molina had a terrific start, 6 2/3 innings, only allowing 1 run, striking out 11 despite the loss. We would end up getting swept by the Blue Jays, which is a very bad look, hoping for more luck against the Royals. Top 8, it's a 1-run game, runners on the corners, and a huge at-bat here for the catcher, Freddie Fermin, facing off against Joel Payamps. This one is popped into foul territory, Sable under it, and he will make the play. This is going to be a good barometer for us because the Blue Jays are not a very good team, but the Royals are. They're currently in the playoffs in the AL, so if we can play well in this series, that would give me some confidence back, and we do end up winning this game by the same score of 5-4. It looks like Camilo Doval did come in for the save, and he got the job done. I still trust him, and I still want him to be the closer, but obviously there is some trust being lost, and with the addition of Felix Bautista, if he slips up again, he might lose his job. So it's nice seeing that he was able to shut the door in the 9th. Munetaka Murakami goes deep for the 34th time this year, while Edwin Arroyo hits big league homer number 1. That'll bring us here to this next game against the Royals. Tied at 6, top 9. They have 17 hits. Looking to make it 18 with Alexander Canario. He's 3 for 4. Liner to first, caught by Garrett. He will tag the base, and the Giants get out of it. Can we walk it off in the bottom of the 9th? No. But we'll hop back in here in the 10th. 2 on, 2 away. Mason Miller's still in the game. He is pitching at a very high level. Despite allowing 9 hits, no runs have scored off of him, as it's Freddie Fermin who's up for the Royals. 2 on, 2 away, and a full count here. They can load the bases with a walk, theoretically. The pitch on its way. This one is hit high into right. Lee should be under it, and he will make the play. So that'll bring us into the bottom of the 10th. Now can the Giants walk it off? And the answer this time, yes, we do. Blake Sabol with an RBI single to win the game 7-6. The Royals had 18 hits in this game. Greg Gomez went 5 for 6. But we find a way to get the job done with the walk-off by Sabol. Garrett played well. He homered. Rodriguez 2 for 3. So we win this series here against the Royals. That's a big deal because, as I said earlier, the Royals are a good team, so it's nice seeing us do well against them. That would bring us into our series against the Diamondbacks, and we would get some bad news. Logan Webb, torn finger ligament, 2 to 3 month injury, which is going to keep him out for the remainder of the season, including the playoffs, and we're going to put him on the 60-day IL. Wow, this is a big one here. Logan Webb obviously has not quite lived up to expectations this season, having his worst season of the series, but he's still a really important piece for us. Last year, he was terrific in the postseason, and not having him at all for the month of October is really going to suck. Again, he hasn't pitched his best this year, but he has still been good enough to where I'm somewhat confident going into the postseason, and with his contract being up, that could be it for Logan Webb here on the Giants. Mason Miller slides back into the rotation. I'm confident that he'll be able to hold the fort, and we're going to sign Jacob deGrom out of free agency. Now, deGrom will actually never be eligible to make the postseason roster because we're signing him after September 1st, but I still want to get him in the building. Get him around the young guys in the minor league system and being able to offer advice to some of these younger pitchers like Rios and Molina, who probably will be pitching big games in the playoffs, but we're not done. Mickey Manzanillo, our first-round draft pick from last year, will be called up right from Double-A to the majors, and he will move into the bullpen. So now we'll continue this series against Arizona. Top 10, 2 on, 2 out. Drew Jones grounds out to second. Khalil Watson makes the play. That one was against Yariel Rodriguez, who might have to start some games in the postseason himself with the addition of Logan Webb. Let's see if we can get the job done here in the bottom of the 10th with Rodriguez not allowing anyone. All we would need is a base hit to get the job done, and sure enough, we would end up getting the job done, winning this game by the final score of 3-2. It was the Jung-Hoo Lee show. He had 3 doubles, drove in runs on all 3 of those plays. He was the offense in this game for us as he continues to be a star, and even though we haven't talked about him in depth that much this season, he's still been terrific. He's on pace for another 7 WAR season, which he's been somewhere between 6 and 8 every year of this series over a 5-year stretch. That's pretty ridiculous. So we went 3-1 against the Cubs, got swept by Toronto, but then we go 5-1 against the Royals in Arizona, including this game, 13-3. The offense really playing well. Tommy Rogers with a triple and 2 homers. Munetaka Murakami went deep twice as well, and Blake Sabol went 4 for 5. The 3 of those guys hit 5 home runs, and they drove in 10. That's pretty impressive. We've officially clinched a playoff spot, as you can see. The race for the wild card looking very intense. But we're probably not going to be in that race. We're 5 ahead of Atlanta. We're around 10 ahead in the division. So being that the division is basically a lock, rather than playing the game that clinches is the division, I'd rather play against the Rangers instead, because this could end up being a World Series preview. The Texas Rangers are the only team who really has a great chance of potentially having a better record than us at the end of the year. Obviously, somebody like Atlanta could pass us, but with our 5-game lead, I feel pretty good about us staying ahead of them. The Rangers, meanwhile, are only half a game less than us. Now, granted, they play in a much worse American League, but the AL West is probably still going to have 3 playoff teams. So this could end up being a World Series preview. The best team in the NL, the best team in the AL. Corbin Burnes on the bump for the Rangers, arguably their best pitcher. 2.80 ERA, 1.17 whip for the two-time Cy Young winner as he faces off against Tommy Rogers, who's up. This one is hit up the middle. That one will go for a base hit. The leadoff runner aboard, and of course a speedy one at that. So Tommy Rogers starts himself on base, and we'll see if the Giants can get rolling early here in Arlington. Ian Happ, 2-1. This one is hit high and pretty deep and to right. Back at the track, at the wall, it is gone! Over the glove of the Dolis Garcia for Happ. That's home run number 33 on the year. So the Giants already with an early lead here in the first game of a short two-game set here at Globe Life Field, as it is now a 2-0 lead for San Francisco. So already getting some early runs here in the first. We'll see if Blake Sabol can add some as it's hit sharply to second on the ground. Going to be a tough play. Throw to first is not in time by Nathaniel Lowe, who's playing second. Why? I don't know. They have Corey Seager DHing, yet Nathaniel Lowe is playing second base. Stone Garrett now on the ground. Base hit into center. Sabol's going to be aggressive, and that decision backfires. He's caught in a pickle, and he is eventually tagged out. Blake Sabol wanted to get to third base there, but in hindsight, probably not the right call. The Giants got a little trigger happy, kind of a heat check moment, and a pump the brakes for them. As we go to the bottom of the first, take a look at Scott Rios. He obviously had those 6 games in May, pitched really well. Since coming back from injury here in the big leagues, he hasn't quite been as good, but he's a 21-year-old rookie. We're going to have to give him time. But his timeline is being accelerated with the injury to Logan Webb. I didn't really think he was going to have to play a big role in the postseason, but now we might need him. As Stephen Kwan opens things up with a single up the middle, they'll call that a base hit. And that brings up Geraldo Perdomo, signed a big deal this offseason from Arizona. He singles in to right. So 2 early base runners here for the Rangers. They're looking to get all these runs right back, as that'll bring up Corey Seager. The 2-time World Series MVP lines it into left, and the bases are loaded with nobody out. So the Rangers now have a golden opportunity not only to get the 2 runs back and tie the game, but potentially do more and try to overwhelm this rookie pitcher. Ketel Marte acquired via trade at the deadline. This should score a runner. Finally, we do get an out, but the leadoff runner will score. Perdomo makes it to third, and so it's now a 2-1 ball game. So a successful at bat there for Marte. That'll bring up Josh Young, the talented third baseman, and he puts it on the ground. This could be 2 and end the inning. Ramirez, Happ, Garrett, double play, inning over. The fact that the Rangers only got 1 there honestly feels like a miracle, given that they had the bases loaded and nobody out. I will take that as a win any day of the week. Jose Ramirez gets his kick started in the second as Lowe bobbles it. Throw to first is way offline, and that'll be scored as an error for Nathaniel Lowe. Again, why is he playing second base? How does this team have 94 wins if their manager is eating glue with these decisions as Kyler singles it into center? We're going to send the runner again. I felt a lot better about it that time, being how hard that ball was hit. And sure enough, the runner is safe. And so now there's runners on the corners. 1 away here for Tommy Rogers. Base hit in his first at-bat of the game, and he scored. Rogers now lets this one rip into center. Back at the track, at the wall, it's caught. A really nice job by Ketel Marte to range over to that baseball. The Giants get a run off of the sacrifice. That could have gone a lot worse for Texas. That's a home run at many other ballparks, but not here. Can't help but feel like Tommy Rogers almost got robbed by the dimensions. Bottom 2, Nathaniel Lowe trying to make up for his error, or really make up for his manager's horrible decision to have him play second base. As that ends up being a double, he gets himself in scoring position. And we'll see if the Rangers can bring him in. It's the young catcher, Jefferson Caro. 1-2, swinging on this on the slider. Scott Rios is not known for his strikeout ability, but his swing and miss stuff as a rookie has been better than I could have expected it here at the big league level, and that'll move us into the third. Ian Happ gets it started. He gets plunked. So a leadoff runner here for the Giants, and they start this inning with an early runner. Both teams are having no issues getting guys on base, although the difference is that we're playing against a 2-time Cy Young, while the Rangers are going up against a rookie. As Munetaka Murakami goes down on the slider. Murakami really is like a 2-outcome hitter. it's either a strikeout or a homer, it feels like with him. Blake Sabol now, swinging a miss on the circle change. Very nice pitch by Corbin Burnes to have it move late at the end, go out of the zone, but Sabol was already swinging. Now Garrett with a single into right, and so there's 2 on, 2 away, and that'll bring up Jose Ramirez, who reached off of an error his first time up. He's ahead in the count, 3-1, and J-Ram will take his base as he draws a walk. And with that, the bases are now loaded for Kyler Rodriguez. Inning over, right? Ooh, that's a good take. Count is full. Barely hits the corner of the zone. That's a tough call for the umpire to make. And so now, the count is full here for Kyler. Walk brings in a run. Gap shot probably brings in 3. The bases should be cleared here as it's 5-2. The third and final run looking to score. It's 6-2. 3-run double for Kyler Rodriguez, and as this season goes along, we are continuing to break the bases loaded streak, it feels like. We've been really successful with the bases loaded this season. So the Rangers are going to go to the bullpen. Corbin Burnes is done and will be replaced by Framber Valdez. As Hackman grounds it to third, Young deflects it, throw to first is in time. They got him. That'll wrap up the inning. Giants add to the lead, though, headlined by a 3-run double by Kyler Rodriguez, knocking Corbin Burnes out of the game. As Stephen Kwan hits it into left, and Rodriguez is going to play it safe. He lets that one drop for a hit, rather than trying to go for the big play and potentially letting that ball get by him. Corey Seager now on the ground, gets by Murakami, and the Rangers get 2 runners on. Texas has not done a great job of scoring their base runners, but they continue to get guys on easily. Marte on the ground, could be 2, and it will not. Good hustle by Ketel Marte. That'll keep the inning alive. And it gives the Rangers a really nice chance here with runners on the corners. Young draws a walk, and now the Rangers have the bases loaded. They're right where we are. Diaz pops it up. 3 more runners left on base by the Texas Rangers. This used to be us leaving guys on. And again, Scott Rios has not pitched a very good game. He's allowing a bunch of runners, but you got to give him credit for getting out of these jams. Jung-Hoo Lee launches it into left field. No doubt about it. That one is gone. 7-1 for San Francisco. Little lefty on lefty crime against Framber Valdez. Home run number 16 on the year for Jung-Hoo Lee. And if you remember last year, Lee got cold in September, struggled into the playoffs, and then had a really bad month of October. We need him in particular to play well this month, as Ian Happ is aboard with a base hit into right field, and the Giants' offense is continuing to crush the ever-loving piss out of the baseball. Murakami now draws a walk, and there's 2 on, 2 away. Big opportunity for Stone Garrett, who's ahead 3-1. Up the middle, base hit! Garrett's 3 for 3. We will send the runner Happ. Throw to the plate by Ketel Marte is not in time, and it is now 8-1. I thought this was going to be a clash of the heavyweights, but instead, we're looking at a complete blowout. Runners on the corners, full count. Jose Ramirez draws another walk. Ramirez has reached base all 3 at-bats today, but he doesn't have a hit. He's reached off of an error, along with 2 walks. Kyler has the bases loaded again. Hit a bases clearing double in the last inning. This time, not so lucky. Pops it into center, caught by Marte. We lead the bases loaded, but we score another run, and you can't really get mad at Kyler. He made the big play in the last inning, as it's 8-1 going into the bottom of the 4th. We've already got 10 hits. We're drawing a number of walks. The offense is just clicking right now, and even though Scott Rios isn't pitching his best, again, we're getting out of jams and not letting the Rangers score. The number that really matters is the one on the scoreboard. Lowe strikes out. Caro grounds it to first. Garrett tags the base. 4 innings of 1-run ball for Scott Rios. It hasn't been pretty. And here in the bottom of the 5th, the roller coaster will take a bump. Stephen Kwan off the foul pole. It's 8-2. His 15th home run of the season. Texas is not going to go away without a fight. That'll bring up Geraldo Perdomo now. 1-2. Ooh, nice pitch. Got him looking. Painting the corners. Call him Picasso. Corey Seager now. This one is launched into right. And this one might be the camel that breaks the straw, or whatever the saying is, off of Scott Rios' back. I think you're probably going to see him yanked here. Seager's 24th of the year. And Rios' day is done. His struggles kind of catch up to him in the 5th. Will these 2 home runs be Chris Paul cutting the lead to 43, or Are the Rangers actually going to make a comeback out of it? Well, it's not going to be easy for them. They're facing off against the red-hot Yariel Rodriguez, who's had an absolutely incredible season. We've been waiting for him to break out over the last few years, and he has in a major way this season. Ketel Marte, though, is going to draw a walk, and Texas is really getting something here offensively here in this inning. Josh Young, 1-2 on the ground. Garrett sends it to Ramirez. Back to Garrett, doubles him up. The Rangers get 2, but if they want to start a rally, they've got to continue to move really fast. Into the 6th, Framber Valdez remains in the game. Ian Happ swinging a miss on the circle change. It seems like Valdez is starting to get comfortable. Now, it would have been nice for the Rangers if it didn't take 6 innings for their pitching to look good, but Valdez had himself a nice inning. Sable goes down looking, and it remains 8-3 as we go bottom 6. Rodriguez, I think you're going to see a few innings out of him at least. We want to preserve the bullpen as much as we can, as Yandy Diaz goes down looking on the splitter. Nathaniel Lowe now, full count, 2 away. This one is popped up. Sable is under it, and he will make the play. 8-3 going into the 7th. Right when Framber Valdez is pitching well, the Rangers are going to yank him because, again, this manager is, he's not the brightest. We'll put it that way. Cole Winn will come out of the bullpen to replace Valdez. He faces off against Jose Ramirez. That's a hat trick, his 3rd walk of the game. And so he is aboard now with 2 away for Johnny Hackman, one of the few guys in this lineup who's been quiet. And he goes down on the fastball. Remains 8-3. Pretty good inning for Cole Winn. Although it doesn't look like the Rangers are going to win, I guess this helps the small likelihood they have of making a comeback. Bottom 7, Jefferson Caro down the line. Murakami, backhanded throw, is in time. That was a close call, but they got him. Into the 8th now, Tommy Rogers swinging a miss. Both offenses have all of a sudden just gone cold. We have not been able to recapture the magic that we had through those first 4 innings. Ian Happ with 2 away. Flies this one into right center. Should be caught by one of these two, and it's Ketel Marte who tracks it down, makes the play. But even with the Giants' offensive struggles over the last few innings, it hasn't mattered because Yariel Rodriguez is a man on a mission. Josh Young chases the slider. Rodriguez faces 11 batters and retires all 11. 3 2/3 perfect innings. And that'll bring us into the 9th. Winn remains in the game. The Rangers also wisely choosing to save their bullpen as Murakami nearly rips his head off. If Winn was about 6 inches to the right, he would thus be 6 feet under tomorrow. Sable singles into right. Now the offense is starting to get something going here. 2 on, nobody out. We're looking to add to this lead. 5 runs is not enough. Camilo Duvall's just allowed 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th against Toronto. You can never be too comfortable. Another walk for J-Ram. 4 consecutive at-bats for Jose Ramirez with a walk. He has now reached base all 5 at-bats today. Kyler Rodriguez with the bases loaded again. Into left center. Off the wall. 1 run scores. 2 scores, and we'll leave it at that. It's 10-3. Kyler does not clear the bases this time, but it's another double. He's driven in 5 runs today. And TJ Antoine will come out of the bullpen to replace Winn. Johnny Hackman is up here, 2-1. Pair of runners in scoring position as this one is belted into center. It's 11-3. Runner, Rodriguez looks to score. He's safe. It is now 12-3. So the Giants are really pouring it on here late in this game, trying to make sure that the Rangers are not going to have any chance to up this lead as Ian Happ swings at a pitch in the dirt. We'll go in the bottom of the 9th, and this feels like a perfect opportunity to bring in Mickey Manzanillo, the 21-year-old rookie. We drafted him in the first round last year, was terrific in Double-A, skips Triple-A for now to make it all the way up to the majors. A pretty stress-free debut for him, being that we're up by 9. So he doesn't really have to deal with the butterflies as much as somebody else would, but obviously the nerves are still going to be there a little bit as Nathaniel Lowe singles into center. Still 2 away, though. Manzanillo's making it through the inning pretty nicely. Now against Jefferson Caro, 1-2. Swing and a miss! If Sable makes the throw here, he does. That'll not only end the game, but it's career strikeout number 1 for Mickey Manzanillo. A 12-3 final. What a dominant win here in Texas for the Giants. The offense was terrific. Now, granted, in the middle of the game, we did nothing, but we scored 8 runs through the first 4 innings, and then we added 4 right at the end. My favorite stat line has to be Jose Ramirez. 5 at-bats, 0 hits, but he still reached base all 5 times, getting on off of an error and 4 walks. Scott Rios did not have a particularly great game, and Yariel Rodriguez came in and did not allow a base runner. He was fantastic. The Rangers' pitching was not great. The offense did not do enough as this game went along. And as you can see, the magic number in the division is getting smaller and smaller. Let's see how much it decreases here, simulating through the Rangers series, along with 3 in Arizona. Here in the second game against Texas, the offense has decided to lay an egg. But it might not matter. Kyle Harrison is balling. We'll start things off with Geraldo Perdomo, as he will line this one into right, should be caught for out number 1. The story of this game is that it was scoreless going into the 9th. Joe Ryan pitched 8 scoreless innings for the Rangers. They took him out of the game, and then the reliever allowed a home run to Kyler Rodriguez. The Giants are going to stick with their starter, not going to the bullpen, and it looks like it should pay off. Ketel Marte, first pitch of the at-bat, grounds it to second. A 1-0 shutout win for the Giants with the lone run coming late, while the home run by Kyler Rodriguez, who across the 2 games here against the Rangers drove in 6 runs. Kyler's playing his best ball at the right time, which is certainly good news for our playoff aspirations. Johnny Hackman had 2 hits, and everybody else had none. It doesn't matter because, well, Kyle Harrison is that guy. Now, Harrison has not played all that well over the last couple of months since coming back from his injury, so this is a really good sign that he keeps it going. Here against Arizona, Tommy Rogers has 2 homers. He's looking for a third against his former Giants teammate Dylan Tate, and he strikes out. Luckily, we would still end up winning this game. It ended up being a pretty close one, as Stone Garrett would go deep, and we take the win here 7-5 in the desert against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tommy went deep twice, as did Stone Garrett. Fernando Molina did not have his best start. Really wasn't that bad, but Molina's really starting to set the standard pretty high for himself. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, he's currently in 3rd place for the Cy Young. Who could have seen that coming into the year? Blake Snell, the former Giant, whose ERA is in the 7s, got the start for Arizona, only lasting 2 innings. I imagine he got hurt. Slade Ciccone comes in the game, and then he lets up 4. We would end up sweeping Arizona, which would include a 10-0 win here. The offense exploding, 7 2/3 for Mason Miller. And then a 2-0 win. Sandy Alcantara shuts the door. The pitching is playing really well right now, as the magic number is down to 2, and we're 7 games ahead of Atlanta with 12 games to go. So we are in great position to clinch the number 1 seed. As Tommy Rogers has another 2-homer game. His 3rd could be a walk-off. It would also give him his 100th RBI on the year. Against Jose Soriano, he's already behind in the count 0-2, and he goes down on the slurve. We're headed to extra innings as Soriano makes the play for the Los Angeles Angels. What is the stadium doing? Why is it spazzing out? Nolan Jones would hit an RBI double, and the Angels would take the win here, ending our win streak. The Angels are a good team, though. They're probably going to make the playoffs, and if I'm someone in the American League, I don't really want to face these guys. I think they're quite talented, and the addition of Nolan Jones at the deadline has proven to be a big one. We will lose this game against the Angels as well, 10-7. I'm noticing that Rhett Lauder started in back-to-back games. That is a decision. Is their manager stupider than the Rangers guy? I mean, what are we doing? Molina, meanwhile, did not pitch a very good game, so that pretty much kills any chance that he would have of winning the Cy Young. Still in 3rd for what it's worth. Behind Sandy Alcantara and Shane Bieber, who's on his way to win the MVP, we officially clinch the NL West. We officially clinch a first-round bye, and we're still 7 games ahead of Atlanta with 9 to go. We should be able to clinch the number 1 seed here against Cleveland, and we're going to start to give some of these young guys more playing time. I still want our regular starters to play most days, but I also want to get them some time off, make sure their bodies are good to go for the playoffs, but also make sure they're not rusty. Here against Cleveland, bases loaded in the 8th with 2 away, as Manzardo grounds out to short. Edwin Arroyo makes the play. I'm excited to see Arroyo get some extra reps here over this next week or so as we end up winning the game 7-5. Manzardo's ground out with all those runners on ends up being the difference. We take this one and are inching closer and closer to clinching the number 1 seed. But again, just because we get the number 1 seed doesn't mean we're gonna just stop trying. As I mentioned, I don't really care about getting the 1 seed specifically, but it's more so about peaking at the right time and playing good baseball here in September and getting ourselves in a good spot, feeling good, going into October against probably either the Dodgers or the Padres in the NLDS. Brendan Donovan off the injured list. That is great news. Khalil Watson will go down to AAA. Donovan we're going to have play pretty often just so he can get his footing back before the playoffs. We end up taking 2 against Cleveland, and ultimately that is enough for us to officially clinch the best record in the National League. So we will be the number 1 seed this year after being the 2nd seed over the last couple of years, and that means we'll play against the 4 and the 5, which, again, will be the Padres or the Dodgers. They're still figuring out who's going to get home field. We do have kind of an impact on that because we will be playing against San Diego here in San Diego. So that should be pretty interesting. Potentially a postseason preview, and then we'll also be playing against the Rockies as well. We're going to roll with our regular rotation and then have Peter Reed start this last game against Colorado. So that's where we're going to simulate up to, hoping for the best regarding injuries. Reed would actually face off against Carson Wisenhunt in that final game for the Rockies as we finish 107-55. Good enough for the best record in the National League, and we'll officially play against either the Padres or the Dodgers. We end up winning 2 of 3 in both series, so that's pretty good. 10-2 here against San Diego. Good game from Kyle Harrison. Good to see him playing well right in front of the playoffs. 17-6 against Colorado. My goodness. Sandy Alcantara did not have a good start. That's not a good sign, given his postseason struggles throughout his career, dating back to the Marlins franchise last year. Hopefully not a sign of things to come. Let's look at our standings, and then we will get through our studs and duds of the year. We'll start things off with the National League. We win 107 games, of course, the best record in the NL. The Dodgers get the 4 seed. The Padres will be the 5 seed. So those teams will decide our opponent with a 3-game set in LA. The Braves will be the 2, the Cubs will be the 3, and Milwaukee will play against them to face off against Atlanta. And again, the Cubs and the Brewers are both certainly worse than San Diego or LA. I think the system is pretty flawed in favor of the 2 seed, but look, if we want to win a World Series, we've got to beat all the best teams in Major League Baseball, so bring it on. The Rays end up winning the AL East. The Royals take the Central with Minnesota still grabbing a wild card spot. And then in the West, the Texas Rangers are the number 1 seed, 103-59, so we finish 4 games ahead of them. The Angels and the Mariners end up grabbing the other 2 wild card spots. And this is what the playoff bracket ends up looking like. So we know what our deal is. We've got our little NL West quadrant, if you will, on the top right. And now let's take a look at stats here to wrap up the season. And again, go through our studs and duds of the year. And when we have a really good team like this, I think studs and duds becomes a little bit more challenging because there's a lot of guys who deserve to be nominated for the stud of the year. And there are not many guys who deserve to be nominated for the dud of the year. I mean, we really didn't have anybody not live up to expectations for the most part. So it was certainly a challenge here, choosing 3 for both sides. And you got to keep in mind, it's partly an expectations-based award. What do we expect for the players coming into the year, and do they outperform or underperform that? Along with someone who is able to overcome adversity. Look at J.P. Crawford, for instance. The average was down, the home runs were way down. He's a worse hitter than he was last year, largely because of regression. But he still had a higher WAR because he was able to improve defensively. His plate discipline got better. That's sort of what I mean when I say that somebody who was able to overcome something and navigate through that. So our first candidate for stud of the year will be Tommy Rogers. I was hoping for the year 3 breakout. I didn't expect this. 35 home runs, 110 RBIs practically. Led the team in OPS, so statistically he was our best hitter. 57 walks. The walk rate is continuing to get better. It's been very gradual, but it's getting better. He's also being more aggressive as a base stealer. Defensively, he improved. I mean, he's turned into one of the more well-rounded players in baseball, making an all-star team, getting a silver slugger. What a year for Tommy Rogers. Fernando Molina ends up getting the 2nd spot, and of course, this was always a lot more unlikely than Tommy Rogers. He was drafted as a relief pitcher, and we have turned him into a starter, and he's going to be on our rotation permanently through the playoffs, going into next year. This is a starting pitcher, and a damn good one at that. He started in 20 games this year and was really good, whether it was as a starter or as a reliever. The ERA kind of flew up at the end of the season, but he was still ridiculous, striking out 210 guys in 163 innings. The last spot's going to go to Yariel Rodriguez, who really hasn't been that good of an addition for us. 2026, he struggled. 2027, he didn't even make the roster. But this year, he was unbelievable. One of the most important pitchers on our staff. We will be relying on him heavy in the postseason, and I believe in him. I trust him to be able to get the job done for us. The other guys I thought about include Jojo Romero. He was terrific again, pretty much identical numbers to Rodriguez. Stone Garrett was phenomenal for us this year, but he is already the highest rated offensive player, so he played to his rating. And then as I mentioned earlier, J.P. Crawford, the numbers aren't really there, but this is somebody who was able to fight off regression and have a pretty good year. So now for the duds of the year, we're going to start with Logan Webb. Webb's play throughout this series has always been consistently solid. He's never been a stud of the year candidate. He's never been a dud of the year candidate. He's never been an all-star. The highs have not been that high, but the lows have not been that low. That is up until this year, where he really did not meet expectation, but he is still a very good pitcher, and boy, are we going to miss him in the postseason. But nonetheless, he did not meet expectation. Camilo Doval is a really tough call for me because, yes, he was still an all-star. He won the All-Star Games MVP, and he still had a good season. It's just that he had the worst season of his career, and he blew a number of very winnable games. Again, I still fully trust him, and I still think he's really good, but he's another guy on the last year of his deal, like Logan Webb, who didn't exactly make himself any money. Leover Peguero is going to be the last one. I know he didn't really play that much, but I'm kind of grasping for straws. There's nobody else who really deserves it. Maybe Leody Taveras, but we didn't sign him for offense, and he was still good enough at the plate. Let's talk about the minor league teams now. AA did make the playoffs. AAA did not. But overall, I do think it was a pretty good year for our system. It's not necessarily a very top-heavy group. Of course, we've had some elite prospects in this series, but those guys have made it up to the big leagues. Tommy Rogers and Scott Rios are no longer in the farm system, and because of that, we've got to try to figure out who the next quick call-ups to the major leagues are. I don't think we have anybody with the upside of those two in the system, but we do have some good players in terms of our position guys and in terms of our pitchers. And something I want you guys to keep in mind, I've mentioned it before, but again, I've always felt like pitching stats are very inflated for minors. So when you have a guy like Simone Vincent, who hits for an OPS of near 800, an average of like 290, that's really darn good for an offensive player. Pitching stats are inflated, but I cannot ignore what Chip Gilmore has done. He has been ridiculous this year. And then Rodney Bravo will be the third candidate. We're going all with AA guys here for the stud of the year. I think Bravo has the highest ceiling of any prospect in the entire system. I think he's going to be a starter in our rotation within the next year or so. As for the duds of the year, I really liked Francisco Gutierrez's skill set when we drafted him, but the offense was bad and the defense was also bad. He was pretty horrific this year. Bo Davidson is a guy who I feel like is one of the better players in the system, but he just did not hit the ball very well this year. And then with pitching stats being inflated, having an ERA in the sixes is pretty unacceptable. So Giovanni Cabrera will get the last spot. I have no clue how his WAR was almost 1. He was terrible this year, to put it nicely. So as always, the link for the studs and duds of the year is in the description. That'll wrap up today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next time around, games 1 and 2 of the NLDS against either the Dodgers or the Padres. We have not played against either of those teams in a playoff series through this entire franchise. We've been able to avoid them by getting the 2 seed, but not this year. And to that, I say, bring it on. Make sure to leave a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.